Alright, so it has been over a month since I bought the honestly incredible 3950X, and well, there's a reason why this last part of my build log updates had a bit of time. I really wanted to go ahead and give a proper review of the 3950X. No point buying it than giving a review on how it is on the spot, because that doesn't tell you how it's going to be in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or, sometime down in the future once you've actually got some hands-on experience with it. So, I've got some hands-on experience with it, and well, I guess it's time to go ahead and say over what kind of pitfalls you might see as a potential customer. First and foremost, as I really cannot express it enough, this is not a gaming CPU. Now, I say this for a couple of reasons. One, do not buy this for gaming. If you're buying a 3950X for gaming, you're just wasting money. If you're doing gaming like just gaming, or even gaming and streaming, buy a 3900X or a 9900K if you really, really want an Intel CPU. 3950X, however, on the other hand, it's not built for gaming. Yes, it games very well because its turbo's up ridiculously well, but it's not really focused for gaming at all. What it is focused for is, well, huge multi-threaded workloads. So this chip here is going to be around about 680 to 800 pounds, depending on the day that you buy. Now, for that, you get a chip that isn't really designed for gaming. It's got 16 cores, and most games don't even break 35% CPU usage. So, going back to that, it's not a gaming CPU. You see why. You've got so much extra headroom, there is literally no point in getting a 3950X. 3900X, a little bit more debatable, and in that case you might be able to justify it. But 3950X, it's not worth the extra, what, £300? Something like that? But what it does excel in is, well, honestly, huge workloads. For me, in my case, that would be video rendering. Multiple transcodes from one video type to another at once. It's the kind of thing where that absolutely kills Intel, because you've got so many cores, you've got so many threads. Even if you aren't able to go ahead and utilize all of them in one workload, you've still usually got well over half, in which case you could run a transcode in the background to get it out of the way for later, saving you time. And remember that 35% that I mentioned? Well, here's another little hidden benefit of the 3950X. Sure, you can do a huge workload and take up 50%, or even 60, or even 70% realistically, of the CPU's cores actually doing real work. But you still have more than enough headroom to, well, if you want, game in the background to go ahead and make the time go by quicker. Most times when you run a transcode on, say, Handbrake, for example, it pins the CPU at 100%. Whereas on this, 4K to 1080p, and 1080p renders in general on the Handbrake don't really scale beyond 16 threads. This has got 32 of them, which means even on that means you could run a 1080p encode, still play something like Far Cry 5, 4K at ultra settings, and still have a good 15 to 20% of your CPU still available for anything else you want to run in the background. It really is a monster when it comes to just pure sheer multitasking. But going back to that gaming thing, that's the kind of situation which you should be using it for gaming. If you're doing tons of work as a creative, or you need to get video renders, or whatever reason, whether you're creative, you actually work for a business, literally anything, even folding at home, it's the kind of thing where this excels at. You can still use a ton, and I mean a ton, of CPU resources to get work done and still be able to game, because in gaming alone, it's honestly completely and utterly pointless. If all you're doing is gaming, get a 3900X or get a 9900K. If you're gaming and streaming, get a 3900X or get a 9900K. This just has so many threads that for those two alone, just those two, if you're never going to create something, it's absolutely worthless. Well, it's not worthless, but the amount of money that you're paying extra on top of that, this is basically a £750 CPU, whereas a 9900K or a 3900X are around £500, £400, which is a considerable price decrease, considering it's going to equate to maybe a couple of extra points or frames in performance per second, at a point where you wouldn't even notice it to your naked eye anyway. Unless it was really slowed down, you wouldn't notice the difference between this and a 3900X in the system when you're actually gaming. Also, a really quick thing I do advise, if you do get yourself a 3950X or anything else, whatever cooler you're using, especially if it's an air cooler or anything where it can easily transfer the heat away very quickly, do yourself a favour, use any more premium thermal interface material. Something like, Arctic MX4 for example, it's good, but for me it turned out it just wasn't quite enough to keep it cooled, well, not cooled badly, but not cooled as well as you'd like. I think it was idling at in the mid-40s. So really with something like this, I'd recommend getting something like Cryonaut, or even if you really want to go ahead and push the boat out, and maybe cause a couple of issues, which is the reason why I didn't do it, liquid metal, such as Thermal Grizzly Conductonaut, as, well, anything over around about 10 watt meter Kelvin, anything over that threshold, generally speaking, keeps the temperatures of this in the mid-30s. Anything under that threshold seems to then push it over into the 40s. It's a bit annoying that you have to go ahead and pay out for fairly expensive thermal paste when you're already spending so much on just the chip alone, and then having to buy an expensive air or liquid cooler, and then you also have to buy some pretty damn expensive thermal paste. I think, like Cryonaut, it's like 6-7 quid for a gram. That's pretty expensive. Other things that I'd like to mention then, considering this is still talking back about my upgrade. The X570 Taichi. It's one hell of a board, but it does have a few caveats and bugs that were ironed out, but be aware of them if you do buy one of these. I only got this simply because I needed Thunderbolt 3. I would have gone for any other X570 board, but this is the only one that, has Thunderbolt 3 and has slots layout. That means I could use my cooler that I've already got. So, things to be aware of with this board is, one, I basically had to perform a ritual to get the networking working. I don't know why, but for some reason, it's a somewhat known issue where, with the X570 Taichi, if you're having network issues, what you have to do is then go into BIOS, enable deep sleep, reboot the system or something like that. I can't remember. I'll probably leave a link in the description, or I'll forget. I probably will forget. Reboot it, boot into Windows, restart it, disable deep sleep. Literally just a whole ritual just so you can have either the Wi-Fi 6 or your Ethernet working, because for some reason, unless you do this, generally speaking, they just stop working after a while. I think at like 6 hours I had of networking and it just, nope. Wasn't even picked up in Device Manager, they just did not exist. So, yeah, that was a bit of a ritual. Other things, really picky on its timings. Not so much when you've got 2 DIMMs in, that's when it's perfectly fine. But when you're someone like me who, has got some 64 gigabytes of RAM, because I need a lot of RAM, 3200 megahertz, and on top of that being CL16, you expect to be able to just plop it in, put on XMP, and you're fine. Not so much. This really doesn't like XMP. Like, probably with one of these kits, it would be fine with XMP, but with both of them, it just refuses to boot. So, what you may have to do if you do buy the same kit of memory as me, or you might even have to do if you do buy different kits, is you may need to go ahead and boot in as standard, no extras like, putting XMP on the start. Just boot in, let it run on auto, whether it be on 2133 or 2666, whatever the JDEC is that is on those. Let it boot in, open Ryzen Master, and then set the Infinity Fabric as well as the clock speed to the correct speed for these, and set everything else to auto. If you start messing around with them, they just won't boot. It is the pickiest thing in the world. I don't know why. It's a problem with this board, but hey, once that's done, that's okay. And the other thing to keep aware of that I really do suggest you keep aware of, these are very expensive. This is £700 basically, Not very often you're going to be able to afford to just replace it. I mean, okay. Why am I saying this? The stock and PBO power settings for how it manages the voltages and that lot in 3950X, it pushes a lot more voltage than I think is really reasonable or safe for a 3950X, whereas I believe the common knowledge is that you should be around about below 1.25 volts on all cores if you're doing an all-core workload, because beyond that, it tends to get a bit... This pushes up to 1.3 or even 1.4 sometimes on all cores. Like, that maxed out at 100%, so that is something like 4 GHz plus on every single core at 1.4 volts. Just under 100 degrees C. You sort of see why I'm saying if you are going to do this, I suggest setting a manual overclock like I've done just to be safe. It's not really a needed thing, but I recommend it just in case. Alright, on a slightly different note, the RAM I bought. This stuff is brilliant. Now, granted, this isn't the highest end stuff. This is literally just Corsair's basic Vengeance LPX, but it does the job well enough. Granted, I've got my issues, but they are mainly board related, because I've never had issues with putting these in builds for other people. But they work perfectly fine with the slight timings issues, but I can't bring it down, because I think even though they are CL16, I'm stuck on like either CL18, CL20, or CL22. I can't remember which one it is. Not great, but hey, it's running at 3200 megahertz. It runs fine enough. I use like 48 to 50 gigabytes regularly when I'm doing video editing, so they definitely pay for themselves in that respect. It's not ideal, but hey, what can you do, right? Another major aspect of this upgrade was, of course, finally moving to an SSD, the Sabrent Rocket NVMe ones. Now, I took a bit of a risk. I went for a brand that I've never dealt with before. I haven't heard too many reviews in general of, but I'm glad that I did. Seriously, these, granted, they can get a bit hot, especially if you don't have a heatsink, so please get yourself a heatsink if you're using a Gen 4 SSD in particular, because these will get up to like 80 plus degrees easily. But despite that slight issue, firmly getting over 5 gigabytes reads and 5 gigabyte writes is absolute insanity. And granted, all the other drives in my system at the moment are hard drives, which means it's never going to see those 5 gigabyte read writes most of the time. However, I have regularly seen 3 to 4 gigabytes reads and writes, which means it's still going over the PCI Gen 3, despite the fact that I am dealing with nothing but hard drives in the rest of the system. You know, that's really nice to have. And of course, when you're copying stuff on here, you know, let's say you're copying one file from one location on it to another, holy hell. It's actually insane how fast that is, isn't it? Even when you're installing, say, a Steam game, because the first thing it needs to do is allocate the space, right? Which means you've got to wait there for like 10, 20 minutes if it's a really big game for it to allocate like 90 gigabytes. This will quite happily allocate it well over 500 to 3 gigabytes a second. That's fast. That's really fast. And honestly, it's incredible just how fast this really actually is. Now I guess I should finally get into, well, the sheer performance metrics, because no doubt a lot of you that have clicked onto this video have seen 3950X review, and probably want some actual numbers on what this bad boy can do. So, I'm going to pull up a lot of the tests that I've done in, well, my 4790K video, because obviously that's what I upgraded from. I want to go ahead and see a performance comparison, and also a lot of the tests that I've also introduced from my Optiplex video, so of course, more tests, so I've got a regular suite now. I might bring in more, I might take some out, we'll see how things go. But, for reference, this is running at 4 GHz at 1.25 volts locked, because I've done a manual OC to keep the temperatures somewhat in check. And, well, here are the following results as they are. Starting off with our usual toaster then, the OCCT burn-in test. This one got extremely hot, and to be honest with you guys, a lot hotter than it normally does for this test, but it was a pretty hot day when I tested. But getting away from that, on the CPU we reached a blistering 95 degrees C. Pretty damn toasty, but like I said, a very hot day, so ambient temperature was a lot hotter than usual. On the GPU we only reached 64 degrees Celsius with an average of 130 FPS. The power draw of this beastly system was 572 watts max and 470 watts on average, with of course a clock speed of 4 GHz on all 16 cores. Moving on to 3D Mark then, Firestrike took the first swing for our more controlled benchmark, scoring 21,965, that is 21,965 for graphics, 30,639 for physics, and a score of 11,104 in its combined test, leading to a 20,807 overall score. Not too shabby, a pretty, well, substantial increase over my previous CPU. But we take a look at the time spy. Well, the gap widens once again. In time spy, the graphics score was 7,865. The physics was a pretty impressive score of 11,965, which last time was only 4,743 on the old i7. A huge jump, and brought our overall score up to 8,291. Not a huge increase over the 79 of last time, but an increase nonetheless. Cinebench R15 was up next this time, and oh, this one was heroic. The 3950X scored 151.25 FPS in the OpenGL benchmark, about a 25% improvement over the i7 with a 98.8% match. On the multi-score, it scored 4,068, and on the single-core test, it scored 187. Cinebench R20 was equally blown apart by Ryzen here, getting a 9,311 on the multi-core test and 462 on its single-core test. Our Handbrake 4K 264 to 1080p 265 benchmark was up next. So in this benchmark, well, it got an average of 50.4 FPS and completed the test in 21 minutes and 57 seconds, about 12-13 minutes faster than the i7. But what is interesting, and I'll highlight this here, is that it only ever got up to 43% CPU usage, meaning that this CPU could actually run multiple instances of Handbrake, as the program doesn't usually scale well past 16 threads, like I mentioned earlier. With some exceptions, such as 264 to 265 4K, but otherwise it leaves the option for multiple transcodes at once. And if I'm honest, it's what I do to, well, save time, or just use the other 16 threads to play games when I'm waiting, because either way, this CPU brings in some interesting possibilities for me as a content creator. Now for our 1080p benchmarks. In Tomb Raider, it scored 294 FPS minimum, 386 maximum, and an average of 341.4 FPS, a pretty incredible result. Moving on to Dirt Rally, however, the minimum FPS was 128.87 FPS, a pretty substantial drop from the 305.95 maximum, and, well, the 202.44 FPS average was nothing to scoff at. And also, in total, it rendered some 41,577 frames in total during this test. Onto the War Thunder benchmarks next. Starting off with Pacific Day scenario, it achieved an average FPS of 572.8 with a minimum of 292.3 FPS, and a total rating of 131,210. Moving over to the Battle of Berlin scenario, it scored an average of 442.2 FPS, but a high minimum FPS of 299.2, with a rating of 41,309. Both are pretty impressive results. With the tank battle scenario, it achieved some 361 FPS on average, with a minimum of 265.3 and a rating of 481. Finally, the Eastern Front scenario provided us with an average of 520.4 FPS, a minimum of 371, and a rating of 11,244. All in all then, it pretty much smashed the War Thunder benchmark with a constant speed of well in excess of 240 FPS, no matter what, without any frame drops below that. Not that I'm suggesting this is a gaming CPU, but for professionals like myself who also game on their work machines, it's an absolute beast. Finally, GTA 5 was a bit tricky as there were several runs, and with frame drop anomalies either at the start or end of the test that sort of messed up the overall score, but in the end I decided to go with a final pass for our performance numbers. Right, it hit a rock bottom minimum FPS of 3.7, but I do believe this was actually caused by loading into assets at the start of the test, but cannot confirm to be sure. It hit a maximum FPS of 294.4, an average FPS of 164.29, a minimum frame time of 3.4 milliseconds, a maximum of 269.91 milliseconds, with it sitting at an average 6.06 milliseconds. The frames rendered in under 60 milliseconds, or that were rendered at over 60 frames per second, were 18,038 out of 18,107, or 99.62%. And for, 30 FPS or under 33 milliseconds, it was 18,058 out of the 18,107, or 99.73%. I'm going to skip over the majority of the 1440p benchmarks here, and I'm just going to go ahead and let the graphs roll so you can see them for yourself. And I'm also going to talk through the next section whilst those graphs are rolling. So, Dante's Inferno, the 3950X system. It can produce, it can game, and more than anything else, it is absolute insanity. And in-game with either stock or PBO, it can get even higher speeds and clocks. But in the end, the 3950X truly is one of those chips that sounds too good to be true, but it really is true. Sure, the price hurts your wallets, but for professionals, it can be considered as at £650 to £800. It's by no means cheap, but when you look at how it does perform in terms of time saving in certain tests and being able to run multiple instances of, say, Handbrake, for example, that's where it shines, as the question for people buying one of these shouldn't be, is it the best? It should be, how much is your time worth? Sure, you can get a 9900K, a 3900X, or, an older Threadripper chip such as the 2950X, but why? Why would you when the 3950X exists? It runs circles around the competition, multiple circles. It outperforms the 10980XE in some cases, or at the very least matches it. For under £1,000, it's really hard to go ahead and deny the sheer value of this chip. With 32 threads, AMD is killing it here. I mean, hell, they're doing it to the point where, like I said, with their old Threadripper chips, they're killing off their own market segments. The only reason to get a Threadripper chip is because you want the multiple PCIe lanes, otherwise just get a 3950X, because it's just so much more worth it if you also then consider in the cost of a decent motherboard. Not this decent, just a decent motherboard. And everything else, it becomes a lot cheaper. Whether you do video production, 3D rendering, music production, whatever the case may be, you can buy a 3950X, bundle it up with some ECC memory, because believe it or not, this does in fact have ECC memory support, so you can throw it into a, budget workstation if you really wanted. Truly then, if you want the best of high core counts, but also want the best of high core clocks, then the 3950X is truly the CPU for you. Honestly, guys, it's... As a piece of engineering alone, it's a marvel. As a gaming CPU, it leads at the top of the pack, even though this isn't really built for gaming, It's just... It's absolute insanity. The amount of work that you can produce on just this one chip. And the amount of work that must have been gone into it, into producing this one chip, it's insane. And really, AMD have slayed the under £1,000 market and under $1,000 market, because nothing else can compete with a 3950X on any level. And that is truly where its number one spot really comes in. Like, they're even, with AMD, they're even killing off more profitable, products with this chip because it is that good. So, yeah. I honestly really recommend it. Now, before some of you do go ahead and start toting I'm an AMD fanboy in the comments, I really do like Intel. In fact, for the longest time I was actually planning to go Intel on my next upgrade. Up until the point this released, because why would I want to go Intel when I can get so much performance, but really not much more? Like, granted, it's a very expensive chip, but compared to like a 9900K, 9900KS, whatever, it's kind of cheap by comparison. I mean, you're paying 50% more for 200% the amount of cores. Not to mention with the actual clock speeds that they run at, 4.2, 4.3, with the IPC advantage, that's basically equivalent to 5 GHz on Intel. So, yeah. The thing is, I want Intel. I like Intel. It's got a lot of benefits, such as quick sync and various other things, especially if you're building like a Plex server. You want to go Intel. But my problem with Intel is just they're not competitive. Especially lately with the 3300X and the 3100, in every market segment, Intel are just not competitive right now. You've got the 3950X for budget/high-end workstations. You've got the 3900X for high-end gaming stations. You've got the 3600 as a good mid-range, alternative. Then you've got the 3100 and the 3300X, which are absolutely dominating the budget market. You've got the 3200G, which is a really brilliant APU for, a HTPC build. You've got the Threadripper chips for just sheer ridiculous amounts of performance on your desktop. And then you've got AMD Epics destroying data centers. There is literally no market segment right now that Intel can be competitive in. Even in their laptop market, where they've always had a huge advantage over AMD, they just don't have one anymore. Intel are really behind. Like, really behind. And granted, 10th gen is around the corner, but I really don't think it's going to make a difference at this point. To be truthfully honest with you, 14nm, insert the amount of pluses here, it doesn't look like it's going to make a difference, so who knows? But right now, this thing's a monster. Really, it's a monster. To be honest, it's sort of like 10 years ago again, isn't it? When Intel were releasing Sandy Bridge and AMD just didn't have anything they could compete with. I think, best they had was FX started to come out, and we all know how that ended. Really, this is AMD kicking Intel whilst they're down. Now, AMD have made a few decisions lately that seem a bit dodgy, I will agree. But they are still definitely leading the pack here. To be honest, Zen 2, in general, seems to be the Sandy Bridge for AMD. It's their equalizer, and on top of that, it's more than an equalizer because the prices they're pushing for the amount of performance you're getting. If I was working at Intel right now, I'd be seriously concerned about the upcoming 10th gen launch, because hell, 10th gen HEDT was honestly dead on arrival because of this chip, which is for desktop. But getting away from politics of the day, what's next for Dante's Inferno then? It's, I've been talking about AMD and Intel for the past probably 10-20 minutes. Well, up next for this is getting a very fancy Corsair HX 1200i power supply, because obviously I want to do multiple SLI configurations, and I want to make sure that it's definitely got enough power to supply whatever configuration I end up thinking about. I do have a couple of plans in my head, but obviously we're not going to go ahead and see them until we've actually seen them, so that's coming. Also, it is getting a huge storage upgrade, because seeing how this performed, it's definitely reinforced my decision to get 2 more of these to go ahead and put into RAID 1 to use as a scratch disk, but also an extra couple of 10 terabyte hard drives to go ahead and use for my mass storage. So what I'll do is have 2 of these in RAID 1, 2 10 terabyte WD Reds in RAID 1 as well for mass storage, so I've got redundancy on this machine itself, but then also have a third one which I will go ahead and use as a off-machine backup, so if that blew up for whatever reason, I've still got everything safe on a hard drive, well, locked away so it can't get damaged. The other things to, well, really mention about what's coming next is that the 3900X, as well as a X570 board for my MSI Nightblade, that's also coming soon. Yes, Big Sky is finally getting her upgrade as well, so 1, I'll be running a 3950X, and 2, I'll be running a 3900X when I'm not at home. And really, I guess today is the official marking of me making my transition from Team Blue to Team Red for the time being. But who knows what the next generation will bring, whether it be the 4th generation of Ryzen chips that might encourage me to buy again, because these are incredible. Plus, I actually have a board that allows me to do it. Or maybe I might end up going 11th or 12th gen Intel, because I really do not have many hopes for 10th gen, but we don't know. We will see in the future. Anyway, I have been rambling on for long enough now, so I guess it's time to wrap up this video and end it here. Anyway then, like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. Links in the description to everything that was featured here today, so you can go ahead and buy it if you really want it, or just check it out in general. No, they're not Amazon affiliate links, because I'm not popular enough for that. But, yeah. Anyway, other things down in the description, my Facebook, Patreon, and Twitch, because I am streaming, just sort of. It's kind of awkward at the moment because my internet's terrible. But I do streaming now. Yeah. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for more content from me, the 117th con, so you can actually stay up to date when I release something new, like, say, that MSI video that I was talking about, the bare bones. Finally getting an upgrade. And, of course, well, so yes, I really should go ahead and cut the video here. This is the 117th con. Signing off. Have a brilliant day, folks, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, Tara.